Michael Redmond. I'm a consultant, specialized in business continuity, disaster recovery, cybersecurity, different areas. Started working for KPMG, worked for them for 5 years, worked for Deloitte for 3 years, had my own firm for 12, and now I'm the director of EFPR Group, and I specialize in the international aspects of this. I was very, very, very lucky with a client a few years ago. They had tons of information on cybersecurity incident response. They collected it from this conference, that conference. They had gone to ISACA, and they had all the COVID-5, and they had the NIST, and they had everything. And they had literally 180 documents they had collected from corporations. This is what worked, this is what didn't work. They hired me for 8 weeks to read the documents, summarize them, and come up with something that would actually work. So this was a great opportunity. I love to read, I love to study, and I was getting paid. So this was great. I have done for Fidelity for the world. And when I say you can do this, I'm not talking about my having a team of 20. The team, you're looking at her. What I did was I learned to use their personnel, their resources to help. So what I did was I've done Fidelity from the business continuity side of the team, had their business continuity plans, but they didn't have cybersecurity incident response. How does the business side find out that there's an event? They see the data's been changed. They're getting customer calls saying, hey, this is not my bank account balance. I think I have this amount of money or that amount of money. Seldom do people call and say, I have too much money, but they get the calls. So this is the things that we're missing. So what happened was, when they went through, we did Fidelity's plan for the whole world, came in, all the procedures, what they should be doing, we templated it, we outlined it. Then they did the work, then we came in and reviewed it. We being they and I together, for the whole world. For Excellus Blue Cross, I was in the middle of doing their documentation when the CISO came in. By the way, when I was hired by them, the CISO said, this is our cybersecurity incident response plan. I said, great, let me start with that. He said, you can't. And he threw it in the trash. He said, I want everything perfect. Why go from what we had before that we didn't even know what we were doing? Start from fresh. In the middle of my notes, Anthem hit. Any Blue Cross company, which is an insurance company in the States, that has clients that use their insurance in a different state, where that state happens to be Blue Cross for another state, if they're hit in California, even though they're in New York, if they had 500 clients in California, so their records were available, and those were breached, they have to declare a breach in New York State. They had nothing to do with it, but they're required to declare a breach. So in the middle of this, Anthem hit. They came running in and they said, we need your notes. I said, my notes are not going to work good for a CISO, or the CISO need them to brief the CEO and everything else, and they used just my notes. And they said, we really need to finish this project fast. So we started working. When they had their major event, they were in the paper for 3 days. 3 days. Not very long. When they were sued and everything else, guess what? They haven't had to pay a penny. We had everything in place. So I've done this for small companies too. I just finished doing a small company, I'm doing it for a government agency right now, and I've done it internationally. So I'm going to go through and teach you very quickly everything that you never thought you needed to know, but you do. And we're going to be covering, we don't have my bio here, so this covers ISO 2701, Information Security Management, 27032, Lead Cybersecurity Manager, 27035, Security Incident Response. But it also covers 22316, which is Resiliency Management. What happens when your IT people that you expect to be helping with the response for cybersecurity are also on somebody else's disaster recovery team? I don't know about you, but I can't be in 2 places at one time. So that's a great one to look at where the problems are, where the issues are. And I'm going way back, all the way to the beginning. So massive cyber attack hit 104 countries, May 17th, WannaCry, we all remember that. The hospitals were hit, executed itself on PCs. How it was stopped, It was stopped because last one, a techware who works for cybersecurity came up with solutions, working through things and accidents and such, and who knows what would have happened if that had not been in place. Let's just give you some quick brief. 2017, Arby's, I don't know if you all know Arby's. Arby's is a fast food place. Their point of sale, 1,100 stores affected. Yahoo, 2017, they were finally indicted in order for their 2014 attack, finally. And that was from a spear phishing email. November 2016, Yahoo acknowledged the company first became aware of the hack in 2014. They're now investigating how much was known in 2014 and why they didn't respond faster. Acer, 115,000 for a breach, small little company. Taiwan-based computer manufacturer. And the reason they had to do it is because they had not improved or shown constant improvement of their cybersecurity practices. No cybersecurity response plans in place. IRS warned of phishing twists to the W-2 phishing scams. Okay, interesting that people were getting things saying, oh, we need you forgot to supply this to us, you forgot to supply this information, would you mind sending us your social security number? It doesn't say it here. IRS was hit twice in the US, twice in 2 years. They came in, they stole people's W-2s, which is how their payroll account to show when they're filing their taxes, they filed that to show how much they had to pay. They took those, filed and said they were the person, the money was paid out, and then the real person submitted their tax return and were told they couldn't get their refund. It had already been paid. They had to wait 6 months to get their refund while they were investigating if that person was personally involved. This was many situations. IRS said, okay, we've paid everybody out. We're great. We took care of this. The next year, it happened again. Not good. Not doing their incident response planning. You'll have all this information later. I'm not going to give, this is just for background. I'll give you all the details later. That's not important. Pair of fraud campaigns linked to defacement of Indonesian hackers. Just want to show you the amount that's happened. Amazon customers targeted in phishing scam. You know these were all 2017? By the way, what I do every single morning, so I look at what scams have happened that day, what cyber events have happened that day. I put them in my PowerPoint. So I can go back and always keep track. Hey, where's the pattern? What's going on right now? And if you're following me on LinkedIn, you see these, I post them every day. If you're in the ISO 2701 user group on LinkedIn, which is PECB managers, I'm one of the moderators for that. I post to that all the time. So if you need this information, it's available for you. We'll make sure you get it. Dutch government website outage. LinkedIn, Dropbox, FormSpring, all hit. 2013, Verizon investigation report. 66% of breaches led to the compromise within days or less remained undiscovered for months. This is from Verizon. This is a great quote. From 2000, 66% of breaches that led to data compromise within days or less remained undiscovered for months or more. About 2 weeks ago, they said that they find now that it's 72 days before most breaches are found. Another one, 2012, Global Breach Incorporated. So we're going back. These breaches are not new. We're just not learning. Motivations behind attacks, cybercrime. Why is this important? You want to figure out what type of organization you have and what would they want. Let's say you happen to be a pharmaceutical firm. Probably not going to want your credit card information. They're probably going to want your formulas. Probably going to want to steal what you do, what you put together, what information is there, what's your research. So think about what has to be protected, not just public information or health information, what else in that organization could someone want? I don't know if you read it about it or not, but when Mark Zuckerberg went to Harvard 3 or 4 weeks ago, Harvard's website was defaced with all jokes about him. It was a student, they thought it was funny, it caused tremendous damage for Harvard. Investors are concerned about if they're not managing their website, are they managing their donations? Are they managing who's giving what donations? Are they managing their grades? Imagine being CEO of a major company who only had C's. You don't want that out. So it's affecting them quite a bit. It was a joke, so why would they attack? A third of banking organizations around the world do not require their third-party vendors to notify them in the event that they have had a security breach. Yes, if it affects them, of course, but what about if they have a security breach and it affected one of their other clients? Don't you want to know that? New York State just made this a requirement for all the banks and all of the insurance companies in New York State. The other states don't have this. So are you requiring your vendors to let you know? Are you reviewing the service level agreements? Are you looking at what's in place? World Economic Forum, cyber attacks will list in the top 5 risks in 26 world economies. The question was, what could take your country down? That was the answer. Not war. This was the answer. Hackers read the same publications we do. If you're not reading these magazines, at a minimum, I suggest you do. This is my reading list. It doesn't mean it's my inclusive reading list, but this is partial of my reading list. I get up every morning and I read. Am I wasting work time reading? I don't think so. I think I'm learning a lot that I need to know what are the trends? Where could patterns be? Okay, now they've given you all the background. Can we get started on what you need to know? Background helpful at all for anybody? Raise your hand if you found it a little bit helpful. Okay, great. Now this is based on ISO 27035. It's based on NIST. It manages with all of them. So it's using the NIST framework. I've mapped them together, the best practice. Remember that project I had for 80 days? This is it. By the way, my clients that have had breaches and have had incidents that have used this plan have all recovered quickly, efficiently, and identified everything right away. So it works. Why are we doing this? You want to maintain continuous operation. You want to make sure that you're not losing money by fines and such. I'm not going to read the list to you. But why are we doing this? So part of the reason for getting your organizations, if you're working for a company, how many work for a company? Okay, so quite a lot. So if you're working for a company and you want to say, we have to do this, and the management says, why? This is why. Just show them this slide, email it to them. Instead of CSIRT, you're going to see CSIRT is spelled wrong. So if you find that, we're going to make believe we didn't see it. Is that okay? Fine. Because we can't wait for the new slides to come in, the correct slides. Don't confuse these two terms. ISO uses ISIRT. I'm using CSIRT because that's what's used in many, many countries. So the difference is it's incident, information security, incident response team, or cybersecurity, incident response team. They're the exact same thing. Why cybersecurity? Well, I think I've given you all those answers a moment ago, didn't I? You know, we can't prevent a breach, but we can certainly, and it's not just breach, it's ransomware, it's anything. By the way, just a little bit more on my background. I'm very excited. I have 3 books coming out in 6 weeks. Publishers finally approved them after many edits. The first one is on your introduction to cybersecurity. You know, what are 10 different types of viruses? Why is a virus different from typical malware? What's a honeypot? How do you use it? Basic terminology that if you're working with your cyber people, you're saying, what language are they speaking? How am I supposed to deal with these people in an incident when I don't even know what they're talking about? So this is for management, to get that clue. It's a small little handbook. The other one is Mastering Business Continuity Management, and it's taught in just like I'm speaking now. and it's a book that's coming out. And the other one is Work-Life Balance. My doctorate is in psychoneurology or crisis psychology, which I thought being in this field might be good. So dealing with people's pressures under these events. But that includes a lot of events, so just to let you know. So if you give me your cards, I'll let you know when they come out. We're going to be giving a 24-hour period where you can get the books for free. So we'll let you know if you give me your cards later. So, does anyone here, don't even raise your hands, but do you know who has ultimate responsibility for the program, for developing the program, a written documented program? That's key. Every employee in the organization must know who's responsible, who's working with it. So again, we have a very simple. This is what you need to do. This is your checklist for your 8 steps. Very simple. Obtain management support and buy-in. Sounds simple. Determine your strategic plan. Gather relevant information. Design your vision. Communicate the vision. Begin the plan. Announce the plan. And evaluate its effectiveness. Very simple little 8 steps. Implementing them, not so simple. So we're going to get into how to implement. You want to adopt a systematic approach. It could be ISO, it could be COSO, it could be NIST, whatever you choose, but make sure you know what system you're following for 2 reasons. 1, so you have a methodology and you're not skipping steps. 2, so you have something that you can actually audit. You know, what standard are we going against? And if you're ever breached or ransomware and you're going into court, we followed this methodology. It wasn't ours. We used a best practice methodology. This is why we did this. You have to gain knowledge. What's going on? What's most current? And that's actually some of the requirements now in many of the regulations, that the people in charge must continue not only to show that they are qualified, but that they maintain being qualified. If you did cybersecurity incident response 10 years ago, it's different today. It's different. And I did it 10 years ago. I can assure you, it's different. So these are some of the standards that I suggest you choose what you're doing. I like the ISO 2701. I like to combine it with NIST. For some of it, it depends on the client, depends on the country, depends on the culture of the organization. So that you have to decide. This is some of the standards that I look at when I'm putting together my incident response plans, some. And I find them very helpful. So now the main thing is defense and response. Not litigation, not preparing ourselves for court, not making sure we're ready, but making sure we can defend ourselves and respond. Respond includes who's going to find out, who's doing your forensics. How did they attack you? What was the signature of the attacker? How did we even get attacked? How did this happen to us? What did we not have in place? We thought we had everything in place. We thought we had our SIM program in place. We got a report telling us that everything was fine in our SIM program. You all know what a SIM program is? Okay. SIEM is Cyber Information Event Management, usually an automated system that can come in from your firewalls and come from your servers. It goes through the OSI models. It tells you where you're being attacked. However, people go out and buy great software, very expensive software, and they don't understand it's not ready. You have to do correlation rules. If these 5 ports are hit for us, we need to know it. If this server, which happens to have our most precious secrets in our databases, is hit, we need to know that ahead of time, not before it's attacked, but when somebody's trying to get to it. So you have to have all these rules in place. It's not ready. When they say it's ready out of the box, they mean it looks ready out of the box. It doesn't work. Lots of work making sure that your automated programs work. If you're doing it manually, logging every issue. Because otherwise you can't see you have patterns. I keep every day reading the articles. I look for patterns. Where's the most critical attacks coming? This is the NIST phrases, and they do map, by the way, to ISO. I just like their graphics better. So you have to prepare. That's your first step. That doesn't mean you alone. When I prepare, I include not only my IT, Unix, Linux, Windows, network, all those people, but I include legal, my privacy personnel, HR. Everyone has a full plan in place for cybersecurity incident response. I have links into disaster recovery, links into my business continuity team. Everything is set, so no one's running around. Who do I call? Did I tell them what's happening? Does everybody know what's going on? So prepare, identify, assess, respond, and learn. Same thing as NIST, just a different term. So when you're identifying, you want to know who to report the incidents to. You don't want to just call InfoSec, oh, we had a problem. Oh, yeah, I'll take care of it. No, how do you do it? How do you know that you're responding? How are you wording it properly so they actually understand what you're saying? Remember we talked about techies and non-techies? You've got to communicate. Two different languages. Try and explain the same situation. It may be more serious than you're explaining. It may be nothing. Maybe just, I got a phishing email. Okay. Did you click on it? No. All right, well, don't click on it. We'll take care of that. So, we don't want to alarm everyone. Again, why are you doing this? I think that the beginning part tells you the why. Would everybody agree? Anybody not agree that that tells you a why? Anybody not agree? Okay, great. New laws and regulations popping up all the time. That's why I have legal on my team. I have compliance on my team. I keep an Excel spreadsheet manually for all the laws and regulations for small companies. For large companies, I'll use an automated software. They both work. They both work. So these are questions you're going to want to ask when you go back to your organization. What type of tests do we perform? Do we do tabletop tests? Do we do simulation tests? Is everybody involved? Do we run cybersecurity tests the same time we're doing our disaster recovery when we're trying to recover all our apps? Are we thinking that we might be attacked at the same time? What a great time to attack. When somebody's vulnerable. When you know that and people have a big mouths. Facebook, sorry, can't talk this week. We're in a disaster mode. We've got to do recovery. Okay, thank you for letting me know. It's a great time for me to attack. So having all of the social media as part of your program. I put this on twice. This is so important. Can anybody read this? Or do I need to read it out? Anybody not able to see it? Okay, quite a lot. Okay. So, an organization's policy and controls must be adaptable. Number one. The assessment of the security threats are ongoing. What does that mean? All the time. Not periodically. Ongoing. Security controls. In order to do security controls, you have to do a risk assessment. Without doing a risk assessment for your organization, why would they attack me? What information would they want? How mature is my organization? Do I have people that even know what to do? You can't know what controls to put in place. It's never ending. So this is a summary of ISO 27035, which is cybersecurity incident response. We talked about defining technical and other support, HR. Insurance is somebody else I put on my team. I want to make sure that they are in the planning phase, so they know how much insurance to get, what types. Do you know there are 10 different types of cybersecurity insurance in most countries? 10 different types. I'm going to be doing a webinar on that, which if you give me your cards, I'll make sure you get the free one, not the one we're charging everybody else for. So I try to give back for your being here. So I'll make sure you get that information. We'll cover all. I don't do anything with the insurance side, but I feel that I'm doing it for our clients. We do webinars once a month for our clients to keep them up to speed on what's going on, what's new, because even though I've told them they have to do all this research, I know they're not. You have to strengthen your prioritization. Who's in charge? We did an exercise yesterday, for those of you who were here, people running all around, who's in charge, what to do, who do we tell, what do I do? Many companies now are making the CISO on the same level as the CIO, not reporting to the CIO anymore. The Chief Security Information Officer is critical, not just somebody who's there anymore. Critical. I suggest, in the events that I've seen that have worked well, the CISO was managing the event, not the CEO, not the CFO, not anyone else. The CSIO managed the entire event, including managing all of the insurance side, the human resource side. Everybody reported to the CISO. They became the commander-in-chief when the event happened, and it worked. It worked. Legal was dotted line to the CISO. Privacy was dotted line to the CISO. The only ones dotted line. Everybody else reported. You have to have detective and corrective controls. How do you know you're being attacked? How do you know that something is happening? Forensic evidence, and you may not know what forensic evidence is, but if you don't, you need to have a consultant or someone on your team that does. Many attacks, the novices in the IT will say, I'm going to stop this attack immediately, without asking. You know what they just did? We can't find out the signature of the attacker. Most attackers repeat it within 90 days. Can't find it out if you shut down too soon. When are you going to shut down? What are the parameters? All that has to be predefined. In what situations do we let them run a little bit longer? In what situations do we say we're shutting it down? And when they're going through and trying to shut it down, they're erasing evidence. No way to even find out how you got attacked. How did they get in? So having forensics training for your organization is a must for your IT teams, must. Here's your objectives. You want to stop and contain the event. Contain. You want to eradicate whatever has happened. You want to do analysis and put together a report. And you want to follow up. Hey, we had all these problems. Did we fix them? Or were the IRS that we're going to say next year, oops, it happened again. Sorry. Well, we've been through this before, we'll survive again. That was the comment. For the people millions of people that did not get their refund checks, that were counting on it to send their kids to college or to go on vacation, they didn't find it funny. Unfortunately, in the US, we have no other company to go to except pay our taxes to the tax collector. We can't choose a different tax to leave the country. This is a chart that I put together, and you're welcome to have a copy of this. This is a chart that I put together on how I work on my, I'm also a certified project manager, so I do it as a PMP project manager would. Do you find this chart helpful? If you were going through and organizing it? Who finds it helpful? Okay. So we can get that to you, but I'm not going to go through detail now with you, but this is the type of things that from the business continuity side, the disaster recovery side, how you link together, and that's important.
Just because it's cut off there, what do you have on either side?
CSIRT, we found it. Remember I said we we're going to find where cybersecurity incident response team, was going to be into IS. We talked about looking for it, very importantly. You want to make sure this becomes part of your everyday business, not something you do once in a while, that this is part of your processes. Now you're doing gap analysis. What can we expect? What do we need to have? What do we not know? Who else do we need on our teams? What other resources do we need to have? You're doing your risk assessment. It could be a healthcare provider and such. I'm not going to go into detail on that. Mitigation to tell employees. I don't call this awareness training, I just call this mitigation. I give them everything they need to know all the time. Hey guys, don't do this, don't do that. And yes, it's done as part of awareness training. It's done as newsletters within the organization. It's on the intranet of the organization. But it's constant reminders because humans forget. We really do, we forget. Anyone ever set a New Year's resolution and not keep it? That's this. Constant reminders. Then when an employee does something, they can't say, oh, I forgot. No, you didn't forget. You ignored it. Now we have rights to disciplinary action. Okay, maybe I need to be careful on what I'm doing. Maybe I need to check. Did you know on phishing exercises, the typical organization has 60% of the personnel click on the email? 60%. After 5 months of constant training, it goes down to 2%. Huge difference. Is it worth the training? I think so. Talking once a month for 5 months. Keeping people aware. You can outsource technology services, and I have to tell you, I worked for an outsource company. Anyone ever hear of HCL America? We're out of India? Okay. So some of our clients were Microsoft, Xerox, companies such as that. You may have heard of them. Guess what? Only one company asked us if we had a cybersecurity incident response plan. This is going back when I was with them 9 years ago. Only one. I was responsible for as the outsource company. I did all the cybersecurity work, everything, from patching everything, for all the mid-range systems for Xerox for the entire world. I was the outsource company, coming in, helping them. No one asked if we had a business continuity plan. No one asked if we had a disaster recovery plan. We had all their data. No one asked us. And I have a very bad habit. Originally, I'm a New Yorker. I would say to my clients, shame on you for not asking me. How dare you trust me to know what you should not trust me. You should question me. You should ask me. Oh, well, we figured you'd know. No. You don't figure. You demand legally. You put it in my service level agreement. You require me to let you know. You don't trust me. This is the way PECB does this, actually, their example of from 2701. This is copyright to them with their permission. This is a nonconformity report when you have an audit, and it tells you, this is what was wrong, this is the clause number of ISO that you didn't comply with, that you're not conforming with, this is why, and this is how you fix it. This is your recommendation. Do you know how many companies I've come in as an auditor to, and they had these from years before, and they never did anything with the recommendations? They didn't act on them? Smaller companies usually, large companies not so much so. You want to take those recommendations not from what you came in, were the recommendations the year before that? Have they all been implemented? Did something fall through the cracks? These are some of the key things for records. I was giving you some of the clause numbers. You'll get these slides later. So, internal audit program, results of internal audits. Review your internal audits when you come in a program. And find out if your internal auditors actually know what they're talking about. I've come into a lot of companies where they didn't. I'm doing a training program right now for 3 of the internal auditors for a client to train them on ISO 27001. Not an audit class. They're sitting in the audit with me. They're collecting evidence. They're learning how I evaluate. Why am I doing that? And we're documenting it. Am I doing an internal audit at the same time? Yes. But while I'm here this week, I gave them all lots of homework to do this week. I held a class with them. This is what this evidence means. This is what it looks like. This is when you don't accept it. This is when you do accept it. Are your internal auditors trained? Some mitigations. Build and maintain a secure network. Very simple. Only takes how long? How much money? You have to have it. Implement strong access controls, making sure your auditor's involved, maintain information security policies. These are some sample attacker tools. We have toolkits. By the way, a toolkit's $300. You can buy them online. Not now, but 10 years ago, out of Russia, there was an online course on how to be a black hacker. Everybody in the US who wanted to take it could. They didn't have rules in place that you weren't allowed to take the course. Not a white hatter. Black hat attacker. You're going to be learning how to go in and do things you shouldn't be doing. Now, you want to learn that also so that you know what they're doing for you. But this is the things. Personal awareness training. People have things in their policies. Don't leave your computer in a car. How feasible is that? Does anybody they have a disaster recovery plan that says you must take your laptop home every day. They're on the way to pick up the children at the preschool. They have to stop off and get a container of milk. Are they really going to carry the baby in one arm, the laptop on the other, and the milk somewhere in between? No. Don't put policies in place that people cannot do. Be very careful. Mitigation for social engineering. You want to have phishing attacks. You want to, about malicious portable media. Tell people to shut off their roaming. Shut off their access to going into, we talked about yesterday, Starbucks, but tell them to shut off their web when they're not using it. Go to airplane mode. Keep it safe if they're not expecting phone calls. Nothing is going to prohibit everything from happening, but it can mitigate. But are they leaving things on that they shouldn't leave on? You want to make sure you maintain your reputation. You want a quick checklist. Review all wireless access points, validate the network perimeter, conduct vulnerability and penetration testing. Many of the plans are doing now 2 vulnerability tests a year, 1 penetration test a year is what's required. I don't think it's enough. I think you need monitoring every day. If nothing else, but just even if it's a human, if it's a small company. But going through and checking, and things get through the hoops. So, I have 2 minutes. Can I have your permission for 5? Okay. Now I'm going to be reviewing what I've given you. You're going to have a program documented in place, a plan for managing. You're going to have a plan for every single Unix, Linux, Windows, HR, everyone. Everybody has their own plan. These are the type of questions you have to ask before you start to plan. I know I'm giving you an awful lot. This is normally a 4-day class, but I'm not going to see you for 4 days. And I want to make sure that at least you know when you look at these slides what you're reading. Is that fair? Is that helpful? Who finds it helpful? Okay, great. So this type of question is going to be asked. And this is a quick list. You've got to come up with more. You want to come up with your objectives, your scope, your assumptions, who owns the plan, what are your action steps, what structure are you using? This follows ISO and NIST. Your preparation, you're detecting it. How do you know that what are your indicators that you're being attacked? How do you analyze it? Declaration, response, containment, eradication, recovery. And look what happens. We're starting over again. Constant, never-ending improvement. So what's needed? You are going to have a program documented. Might be 30, 40 pages, the whole program, who does what, who does where. That program is going to be run by senior management, legal, everyone's going to be reviewing it. It gives permission charters, if you will. How many use charters in their organization? That's where the CEO says, yes, I allow this team to be responsible for this, and yes, this is the amount of leeway they have without having to come back and ask for permission. They can make these decisions. You need internal control assessments. Review all your policies. SANS has a great list of policies. However, they've updated them. All the policies that you had 3 months ago have been dropped. New policies are in place. If you want a quick list of policies that I think are great, Go out to the New York State government IT website. They have all their policies listed online. They have over 24 policies, really good, based on ISO. So are you going to be able to follow it verbatim? No, but it gives you good topics for what you should be included. You're going to be doing analysis. What methodology are you talking about? You know, if it's banking, you have to use FFIEC. You may have to use different things in every country. We're not worrying about that today. You need to find out what are the regulations you need to follow. Make sure you've got communications. How do we let people know when something's happened? I don't know about you, but if my account's attacked, I want to know. Where are the gaps? Okay, it's okay if you go through and you take Annex A. By the way, Annex A of ISO 2701 is where your controls are listed. You can go through and say, well, we only have half of this. That's okay. Now you know where you have to start. It's okay. Be honest about it. Hey, we don't have this in place, but that's okay. And this is what we plan to do, when we plan to implement it, and how we're going to implement it. That's what must be in place. Risk early warning indicators. What don't we have in place that we know right now that I could write on a piece of paper and be right? I don't have anybody trained. I don't have anybody who knows what they're doing. I don't have any procedures. Those are risks. If you can write those on papers right now, you can do this. You know, what type of information do we need? What's the appropriate defense mechanisms? How do we deal with this stuff? So you want to know what degree you're prepared. You want technical questions. You've got to make the list. This is just a sample of the format. You know, authentication service, remote access software, vulnerability management software, web proxies. You know, are we secure in those areas? And if you don't know what they are, go to your IT, go to your cybersecurity group and say, hey, what are these and why am I supposed to ask you about them? That's okay, but you have to learn. Management has its own vision and goals. Find out what it is. That's going to affect how much budget you're going to get, and you have to be able to go through and change that vision and goals on why you need to have this and work with them. We're almost done. When you write your policy, you want to have a purpose statement, application scope, effective date. You're going to get these slides. Effectiveness, policy statement, and optional. This is what must be in a policy. And when I come in, I'm seeing many of these, what I'm seeing missing from many of them is responsibilities. Who's doing it? These are some policies. I've given you a list of the minimum ones I suggest you have at a minimum. And I suggest you go the others to get the rest of the list. Third-party service providers. We said you're going to do a service level agreement with them, right? We talked about preparing, identity, assessing, responding, and learning. This is just our review. We talked about actions, recovery, what people do you need, what resources do we need. Resources are finances, people, and physical locations. Checklist. These are more considerations. You've got a lot to do, a lot. But you know, who's responsible? Who's management? Are we training our board? Does our board understand what this is all about? You know, how much structure do we want to have? We want an automated system, manual system, Word? Who are my stakeholders? Everybody that might be caring what I'm doing, who's involved, and we're almost done. We talked about playbooks. Aside from your plan, you needed a playbook. Action steps. You're going back to the NIST. Here's my phase, my initiation, my identification, and legal has theirs broken out the exact same way. So does HR. Interviews and training. We talked about going back and figuring from your old audits. What did you fail? What do you need to fix? We spoke about looking for patterns. We spoke about looking at keeping logs so you can see where there are patterns, where you're having problems. We spoke about testing and exercises, combining it, doing maybe a paper test, having a test with simulations. A paper test is where you read your plans, and this team says, this is what I'm going to be doing this phase. And Windows says, whoa, I didn't know you were expecting that of us. You didn't tell us that. Well, I'm telling you now. Let's do this in the pre-planning phase, not later. Network says, we can't do that. Our system's not set up that way. Oh my goodness, my whole plan was based on it. Better to find out now. Third-party testing. Don't trust your third parties. Don't trust your third parties. Validate. Trust but verify. Okay, so we are done, and I just want to let you know two things. I have, if you go to rwknowledge.com, I have a 16-hour audio training on business continuity. I have 6 hours training on cybersecurity. It's audio, and Disaster Recovery Institute gives 20 continuing education credits for it. But if you put in PECB, if you decide to order for your organization, instead of paying $395, you're paying $300. So, and that's going to be available for 30 days. So it's rwknowledge.com. Please take my card. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I will stay and answer any questions, but I want to release everybody else for lunch. If you found it helpful, can you stand up? Okay, thank you very much. And I want you to applaud yourselves, not me, because you know why? You took the time to spend your lunchtime to learn this. You all could have left. So can you applaud each other, please? Thank you very, very much. I hope you found it helpful.